Hare Krishna, dear Prabhus, a hearty welcome to this session. We'll be reading Krishna book every day. So we will be starting from the beginning of the Krishna book. So I will share my screen, and any devotees who would like to read can raise their hands. The user use the raise hand option within the Zoom app, and they can continue reading. You can take turns and you can read. So I will share my screen.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanat Pranam Jishla Prabhupada. So, dear Prabhus, can you see my screen?
Yes, Prabhu. Can I start?
Yes, Prabhu, sure. So, please do not, just 1 second. Yes, Prabhu, you can start reading. Hare Krishna, Himanshu Prabhu? Himanshu Prabhu?
Maybe my network is little lagging. Sorry.
Okay, no problem.
To my father, Gaur Mohan De, 1849 to 1930. A pure devotee of Krishna who raised me as a Krishna conscious child from beginning of my life. In my boyhood ages, he instructed me how to play.
Okay, then I shall start. To my father, Gaur Mohan De, 1849 to 1930. A pure devotee of Krishna who raised me as a Krishna conscious child from the beginning of my life. In my boyhood ages, he instructed me how to play the mridanga. He gave me Radha Krishna Vigraha to worship, and he gave me Jagannath Ratha to duly observe the festival as my childhood play. He was kind to me, and I imbibed from him the ideas later on solidified by my spiritual master, the Eternal Father. So move on to the next chapter. Words from Apple. Everybody is looking for Krishna. Some don't realize that they are, but they are. Krishna is God, the source of all that exists, the cause of all that is, was, or ever will be. As God is unlimited, he has many names. Allah, Buddha, Jehovah, Rama, all are Krishna, all are one. God is not abstract. He has both the impersonal and the personal aspects to his personality, which is supreme, eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. As a single drop of water has the same qualities as an ocean of water, so has our consciousness the qualities of God's consciousness. But through our identification and attachment with material energy, physical body, sense pleasures, material possessions, ego, etc., our true transcendental consciousness has been polluted, and like a dirty mirror, it's unable to reflect a pure image. With many lives, our association with the temporary has grown. This impermanent body, a bag of bones and flesh, is mistaken for our true self, and we have accepted this temporary condition to be final. Through all ages, great saints have remained as living proof that this non-temporary permanent state of God consciousness can be revived in all living souls. Each soul is potentially divine. Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita, steady in the self, being freed from all material contamination, the yogi achieves the highest perfectional stage of happiness in touch with the supreme consciousness. 6th chapter, verse 28. Yoga, a scientific method for God, self-realization, is a process by which we purify our consciousness, stop further pollution, and arrive at the state of perfection, full knowledge, full bliss. If there's a God, I want to see him. It's pointless to believe in something without proof. And Krishna consciousness and meditation are methods where you can actually obtain God perception. You can actually see God and hear him, play with him. It might sound crazy, but he is actually there, actually with you. There are many yogic paths, Raja, Jnana, Hatha, Kriya, Karma, Bhakti, which are all acclaimed by the masters of each method. Swami Bhaktivedanta, as his title says, a Bhakti yogi, following the path of devotion, by serving God through each thought, word, and deed. And by chanting his holy names, the devotee quickly achieves God consciousness. By chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, one inevitably arrives at Krishna consciousness. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. I request that you take advantage of this book, Krishna, and enter into its understanding. I also request that you make an appointment to meet your God now through the self-liberating process of yoga, union, and give peace a chance. Handwritten. All you need is love, Krishna. Haribol. George Harrison, 31st March 1970. Apple Corps Limited, 3 Savile Row, London, W1 Gerard, 2771/3993, Telex Apco, London. Copyright 1970. AC Bhaktivedanta Swami, ISKCON Press, 38 North Beacon Street, Boston, Massachusetts, 01234. Need to my father, God Mohan Day. Need words from Apple. Need preface. So, any other devotee can start reading from the introduction.
Introduction by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Raksha Mam. Krishna, 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 Pahi Mam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Raksha Mam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahi Mam. Chaitanya Charitamrit Madhya 7.96. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of International Society for Krishna Consciousness. While attempting to write this book, Krishna, let me first offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, Om Vishnupad 108 Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada. Then let me offer my respectful obeisances to the ocean of mercy, Lord Krishna, Lord Sri Krishna Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself, appearing in the role of a devotee just to distribute the highest principles of devotional service. Lord Chaitanya began his preaching from country known as Gaudadesh, West Bengal, and as I belong to the Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya, I must therefore offer my respectful obeisances to our disciplic succession. This Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya is also known as Brahma Sampradaya because the disciplic succession originally began from Brahma. Brahma instructed the sage Narada. Narada instructed Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva instructed Madhava Muni or Madhvacharya. Madhvendra Puri, the originator of Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, belonged to the Madhvacharya disciplic succession. He had many renowned disciples, both in sannyasa, renounced, and household orders of life. Disciples such as Nityananda Prabhu, Advait Prabhu, and Ishwar Puri happened to be spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So let Prabhu, can you scroll down? Uh, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Prabhu, can you scroll down? Hari Bol. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu. So let us offer our respectful obeisances to Ishwar Puri Nityanand Prabhu, Sri Advaitacharya Prabhu, Sri Vasa Pandit, and Sri Gadadhar Pandit. Next, let us offer our respectful obeisances to Swarup Damodar, who acted as the private secretary to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And let us offer our respectful obeisances to Vasudev Dutt and the constant attendant of Lord Chaitanya, Sri Govinda, and constant friend of Lord Chaitanya, Mukunda, and also to Murari Gupta. Gita. And let us offer our respectful obeisances to the six Goswamis of Vrindavan: Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Sri Jeev Goswami, and Sri Raghunath Das Goswami. Krishna himself has explained in Bhagavad Gita that he is the supreme personality of Godhead. Whenever there is discrepancies in the regulative principles of man's religious life and prominence of irreligious activities, he appears on the earthly planet. In other words, when Lord Sri Krishna appeared, there was a necessity of minimizing the load of sinful activities accumulated on this planet or in this universe. For affairs of the material creation, Lord Mahavishnu, the plenary portion of Krishna, is in charge. Uh, God descends, the incarnation emanates from Vishnu. Mahavishnu is the original Mahavishnu is the original cause of material creation, and from him Garbhodakshaya Vishnu expands, and then Shriodakshaya Vishnu. Generally, all the incarnations appearing within this material universe are plenary expansions of Shriodakshaya Vishnu. Therefore, the business of minimizing the overload of sinful activities on this earth does not belong to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna himself. But when Krishna appears, all the Vishnu expansions also join with him. Krishna's different expansions, namely Narayan, the quadruple expansion of Vasudeva, Sankarshna, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, as well as the partial plenary expansion of Matsya, or the incarnation of fish, and the other Yuga avatars, incarnation of millennium, and the Mahabharata avatars, the incarnation of Manus, all combine together and appear with the body of Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead. Krishna is the complete whole, and all plenary expansions and incarnations always live with him. Now, Hare Krishna, now any other devotee can continue.
Hare Krishna. When Krishna appeared, Lord Vishnu was also with him. Krishna actually appears to demonstrate his Vrindavana pastimes to attract the fortunate conditioned souls and invite them back home, back to Godhead. The killing of the demons was simultaneous to his Vrindavana activities and was carried out only by the Vishnu portion of Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita 8th chapter 20th verse, it is stated that there is another eternal nature, the spiritual sky, which is transcendental to this manifested and non-manifested matter. The manifested world can be seen in the form of many stars and planetary systems, such as the sun, moon, etc. But beyond this, there is a non-manifested portion which is not approachable to anyone in this body. And beyond that non-manifested matter, there is the spiritual kingdom. That kingdom is described in the Bhagavad Gita as the supreme and eternal. It is never annihilated. This material nature is subjected to repeated creation and annihilation, but that part, the spiritual nature, remains as it is eternally. The supreme abode of the personality of Godhead Krishna is also described in the Brahma Samhita as the abode of Chintamani. That abode of Lord Krishna as Goloka Vrindavana is full of palaces made of touchstone. There the trees are the trees are called desire trees, and the cows are called surbhi. The Lord is served there by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. His name is Govinda, the primeval Lord, and he is the cause of all causes. There, the Lord plays his flute. His eyes are like lotus petals, and the color of his body is like that of a beautiful cloud. His eyes are like lotus petals. Oh. On his head, there is a peacock feather. He is so attractive that he excels thousands of cupids. Lord Krishna only gives a little hint in the Gita of his personal abode, which is the supermost planet in the spiritual kingdom. But in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna actually appears with all his paraphernalia and demonstrates his activities in Vrindavana, then at Mathura, and then at Dwarka. The subject matter of this book will gradually reveal all his activities. The family in which Krishna appeared is called the Yadu dynasty. The Yadu dynasty belongs to the family descending from Soma, the god in the moon planet. There are two different Kshatriya families of the royal order, one descending from the king of the moon planet, another descending from the king of the sun planet. Whenever the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears, he generally appears in a Kshatriya family because he has to establish religious principles or the life of righteousness. The Kshatriya family is the protector of human race. According to the Vedic system, when Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared as Lord Ramachandra, he appeared in the family descending from the sun god, known as Raghuvamsha. And when he appeared as Lord Krishna, he did so in the family of Yaduvamsha. There is a long list of kings in the Yaduvamsha in the ninth canto, 24th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and all of them were great powerful kings. Krishna's father's name was Vasudeva, son of Surasena, descending from the Yadu dynasty. Actually, the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not belong to any dynasty of this material world, but the family in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears becomes famous by His grace. For example, sandalwood is produced in the states of Malaya. Sandalwood has its own qualifications apart from Malaya, but because accidentally this wood is mainly produced in the states of Malaya, it is known as Malayan sandalwood. Similarly, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, belongs to everyone. But just as the sun rises from the east, although there are other directions from which it could rise, so by his own choice, the Lord appears in a particular family and that family becomes famous. Any other Prabhu may continue now. Hare Krishna.
When Krishna appears, all his plenary expansions also appear with him. Krishna appeared along with Baladev, who is also known as his elder brother. Balaram is the origin of Sankarshana, of the quadruple expansion. Balaram is also the plenary expansion of Krishna. In this book, the attempt will be made to show how Krishna appeared in the family of the Yadu dynasty and how he displayed his transcendental characteristics. This is very vividly described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, specifically the 10th canto, and the basis of this book will be Srimad Bhagavatam. The pastimes of the Lord are generally heard and relished by liberated souls. Those who are conditioned souls are interested in reading fictional stories of the material activities of some common man. Narrations describing the transcendental activities of the Lord are found in Srimad Bhagavatam and other Puranas, but the conditioned souls still prefer to study ordinary narrations. They are not so interested in studying the narrations of the pastimes of the Lord Krishna. Yet, the descriptions of the pastimes of Lord Krishna are so attractive that they are relishable for all classes of men. There are three classes of men in this world. One class consists of liberated souls, another consists of those who are trying to be liberated, and the third consists of materialistic men. Whether one is liberated or is trying to be liberated or is even grossly materialistic, the pastimes of Lord Krishna are worth studying. Liberated souls have no interest in materialistic activities. The impersonalist theory that after liberation one becomes inactive and needs here nothing does not prove that a liberated person is actually inactive. A living soul cannot be inactive. He is either active in the conditioned state or in the liberated state. A deceased person, for example, is also active, but his activities are all painful. The same person, when freed from the disease condition, is still active, but in the healthy condition, the activities are full of pleasure. Similarly, the impersonalists manage to get freed from the diseased conditional activities, but they have no information of activities in the healthy condition. Those who are actually liberated and in full knowledge take to hearing the activities of Krishna. Such engagement is pure spiritual activity. Any other devotee may, any other Prabhu may continue right now. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Yepa
Suraj
Prabhu.
Prabhu, please. Hare Krishna. Papa Prabhu.
Can I start?
Yes, Prabhu, please go ahead.
It is essential for persons who are actually liberated to hear about the pastimes of Krishna. That is the supreme relishable subject matter for one in the liberated state. Also, if persons who are trying to be liberated hear such narrations as Bhagavad-Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, then their path of liberation becomes very clear. Bhagavad-Gita is the preliminary study of Srimad Bhagavatam. By studying the Gita, one becomes fully conscious of the position of Lord Krishna, and when he is situated at the lotus feet of Krishna, he understands the narrations of Krishna as described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Chaitanya has therefore advised his followers that their business is to propagate Krishna Katha. Krishna Katha means narrations about Krishna. There are two Krishna Kathas, narrations spoken by Krishna and narrations spoken about Krishna. Bhagavad Gita is the narration or the philosophy or the science of God spoken by Krishna himself. Srimad Bhagavatam is the narration about the activities and transcendental pastimes of Krishna. Both are Krishna Katha. It is the order of Lord Chaitanya that Krishna Katha should be spread all over the world. Because if the conditioned souls suffering under the pangs of material existence take to Krishna Katha, then their path of liberation will be open and clear. The purpose of presenting this book is primarily to induce people to understand Krishna or Krishna Katha because thereby they can become freed from material bondage. This Krishna Katha will also be very much appealing to the most materialistic persons because Krishna's pastimes with the gopis or cowherd girls are exactly like the loving affairs between young girls and boys within this material world. Actually, the sex feeling found in the human society is not unnatural because this same sex feeling is there in the original personality of Godhead. The pleasure potency is called Srimati Radharani. The attraction of loving affairs on the basis of sex feeling is the original feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we, the conditioned souls, being part and parcel of the Supreme, have such feelings also. But they are experienced within a perverted, minute condition. Therefore, when those who are after sex life in this material world hear about Krishna's pastimes with the gopis, they will relish transcendental pleasure, although it appears to be materialistic. The advantage will be that they will gradually be elevated to the spiritual platform. In the Bhagavatam, it is stated that if one hears the pastimes of Lord Krishna with the gopis from authorities with submission, then he will be promoted to the platform of transcendental loving service of the Lord. And the material disease of lust within his heart will be completely vanquished. In other words, it will counteract the material sex life. Krishna will be appealing to the liberated souls and to persons who are trying to be liberated, as well as to the gross conditioned materialists. According to the statement of Maharaj Parikshit, who heard about Krishna from Srila Shukadeva Goswami, Krishna Katha is equally applicable to every human being, in whatever condition of life he is in. Everyone will appreciate it to the highest magnitude. But Maharaj Parikshit also warned that persons who are simply engaged in killing animals and in killing themselves may not be very much attracted to Krishna Katha. In other words, ordinary persons who are following the regulative moral principles of scriptures, no matter in what condition they are found, will certainly be attracted, but not persons who are killing themselves. The exact word used in the Srimad Bhagavatam is Pashughana, which means killing animals or killing oneself. Persons who are not self realized and who are not interested in spiritual realization are killing themselves. They are committing suicide because this human form of life is especially meant for self realization. By neglecting this important part of his activities, one simply wastes his time like the animals. So he is Pashughana. The other meaning of the word refers to those who are actually killing animals. This means persons who are animal eaters, even dog eaters. And they are all engaged in killing animals in so many ways, such as hunting, opening slaughterhouses, etc. Such persons cannot be interested in Krishna Katha. King Parikshit was especially interested in hearing Krishna Katha because he knew that his forefathers, and particularly his grandfather, Maharaj Arjun, were victorious in the great battle of Kurukshetra only because of Krishna. We may also take this material world as a battlefield of Kurukshetra. Everyone is struggling hard for existence in this battlefield, and at every step there is danger. According to Maharaj Parikshit, the battlefield of Kurukshetra was just like a vast ocean full of dangerous animals. His grandfather Arjuna had to fight with such great heroes as Bhishma, Drona, Karna, and many others who were not ordinary fighters. Such warriors have been compared to the teeming gulls of fish in the ocean. The teeming gull of fish can very easily swallow up big whales. The great fighters on the battlefield of Kurukshetra could swallow many Arjunas very easily. But simply due to Krishna's mercy, Arjuna was able to kill all of them. Just as one can cross with no exertion over the little bit of water contained in the hoof print of a cow. So Arjuna, by the grace of Krishna, was able to very easily jump over the ocean of the battle of Kurukshetra. Maharaj Parikshit was very much appreciated Krishna's activities for many other reasons. Not only was his grandfather saved by Krishna, but he himself was also saved by Krishna. At the end of the battlefield, at the end of the battle of Kurukshetra, all the members of the Kuru dynasty, both the sons and grandsons, on the side of Dhritarashtra as well as on the side of the Pandavas, died in the fighting. Except the five Pandava brothers, everyone died on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Maharaj Parikshit was at that time within the womb of his mother. His father Abhimanyu, the son of Arjuna, also died on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And so Maharaj Parikshit was a posthumous child. When he was in the womb of his mother, a Brahmastra weapon was released by Ashwatthama to kill the child. When Parikshit Maharaj's mother, Uttara, approached Krishna, Krishna, seeing the danger of abortion, entered her womb as the super soul and saved Maharaj Parikshit. Maharaj Parikshit's other name is Vishnurat because he was saved by Lord Vishnu himself while still within the womb. Hare Krishna. Some other devotee may continue.
Hare Krishna. Thus, everyone in any condition of life should be interested in hearing about Krishna and his activities because he is the supreme absolute truth, the personality of truth. He is all pervading and he is living in everyone completely. That the people may know Krishna and perfectly in the ninth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Baladeva is described as a son of Rohini, a wife of Vasudeva. Vasudeva is the father of Krishna and had, had 16 wives, and one of them was Rohini, the mother of Balarama. But Balarama is also described as the son of Devaki. So how could he be the son of both Devaki and Rohini? This was one of the questions put by Maharaja Parikshit to Sukadeva Goswami, and it will be answered in due course. Maharaja Parikshit was also asked Sukadeva Goswami why Sri Krishna, just after his appearance as the son of Vasudeva, was immediately uh, appearance as son of Vasudeva, Vasudeva was immediately carried to the place of Nanda Maharaj in Vrindavan Gopala. He also wanted to know what the activities of Lord Krishna were while he was in Vrindavana and while he was in Mathura. Besides that, he was especially interested to know why Krishna actually is maternal uncle Kamsa. Kamsa, being the brother of his mother, was a very intimate superior to Krishna. But unsure how it that he killed Kamsa. Also, he asked how many years Lord Krishna remained in the human society. How many years resigned over the kingdom of Dwaraka, and how many wives he accepted. A Kshatriya king is generally accustomed to accept more than one wife. Therefore, Maharaja Parikshit was also decided about this number of. The subject number of his book is Surya was answering these and other personal conflicts of Maharaja Parikshit. The position of Maharaja Parikshit and Surya Goswami is clear. Maharaja Parikshit is the right person to clear the task of Surya Goswami with respect. Such analysis is not possible in Krishna Katha. This narration was started when Maharaja Parikshit was prepared to give a fasting on the bank of Ganges. In order to ask him to perform the Krishna Katha, he would not feel that Maharaja Parikshit expressed himself with hunger and thirst and give to outcome. But the topics of Krishna are connected without feeling tired because of such situation in the temple. It is understood that one must be very close to Krishna Katha. Expecting better engagement. Everyone of
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, you're not audible, Prabhu.
the now audible.
Yes, Prabhu, now audible.
It is understood that one must be very fortunate to hear Krishna. He was especially intent on the subject matter because he was in a moment. Every one of us should be conscious of this at every moment. This life is not at all absolute. At any time, one can die. it does not matter that when one is a young man or a old woman. So before death takes place, we must be fully Krishnavati. At the point of the death, King Parikshit appeared from Sudhir Goswami. When King Parikshit expressed his untiring desire to hear Krishna, Sukadeva Goswami was very pleased. Sukadeva was the greatest of all Bhagavata writers, and thus he began to speak about the Krishna's pastimes to destroy all iniquities in the age of Kali. Sukadeva Goswami thanked the king for his eagerness to hear about Krishna, and he agreed by saying, "My king, your intelligence is very keen because you are so eager to hear about the past." He informed Narada Parishad that hearing and chanting of the pastimes of Krishna was that the process made with the three varieties of men involved. He wanted desired to translate the topics of Krishna. He fulfilled the topics he wrote. These pastimes are like the Ganges water, which flows from the flow of the Lord Vishnu and purifies the spring. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we move on to the first chapter. Yeah, so here it is. So any other Prabhu can continue reading?
Hare Krishna, Swami Prabhu.
Sami Prabhu? Yeah, you can.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Chapter 1 Advent of Lord Krishna. Once the world was burdened by the unnecessary defense force of different kings, who were actually demons, but were posing themselves as the royal order. At that time, the whole world became perturbed, and the predominating deity of this earth, known as Bhumi, went to see Lord Brahma to tell of her calamities due to the demoniac kings. Bhumi assumed the shape of cow and presented herself before Lord Brahma with tears in her eyes. She was bereaved and was weeping just to invoke the Lord's compassion. She related the calamitous position of the earth, and after hearing this, Lord Brahma became much aggrieved, and he at once started for the ocean of milk, where Lord Vishnu resides. Lord Brahma was accompanied by all the demigods headed by Lord Shiva, and Bhumi also followed. Arriving on the shore of the milk ocean, Lord Brahma began to pacify the Lord Vishnu, who formerly saved the earthly planet by assuming the transcendental form of a boar. In the Vedic mantras, there is a particular type of prayer called Purusha Shukta. Generally, the demigods offer the obeisances unto Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by chanting the Purusha Shukta. It is understood herein that predominating deity of every planet can see the Supreme Lord of this universe, Brahma, whenever there is some disturbance in his planet, and Brahma can approach the Supreme Lord Vishnu, not by seeing him directly, but by standing on the shore of the ocean milk. There is a planet within this universe called Sveta Dvipa, and on that planet there is an ocean milk. It is understood from various Vedic literatures that just as there is the ocean of salt water within this planet, there are various kinds of oceans in other planets. Somewhere there is an ocean of milk, somewhere there is an ocean of oil, and somewhere there is an ocean of liquor, and many other types of oceans. Purusha Shukta is the standard prayer which the demigods recite to appease the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kshirodakashai Vishnu, because he is lying on the ocean of milk. He is called Kshirodakashai Vishnu. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, through whom all the incarnations within this universe appear. After all the demigods offered the Purusha Sukta prayer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they apparently heard no response. The Lord Brahma personally sat in meditation, and there was a message transmission from Lord Vishnu to Brahma. Brahma then broadcasted the message to the demigods. That is the system of receiving Vedic knowledge. The Vedic knowledge is received first by Brahma from the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the medium of the heart. As stated in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, Tene Brahma Hrida, the transcendental knowledge of the Vedas was transmitted to Lord Brahma through the heart. Here also, in the same way, only Brahma could understand the message transmitted by Lord Vishnu, and he broadcasted it to demigods for their immediate action. The message was, the Supreme Personality of Godhead will appear on the earth very soon along with his supreme powerful potencies. And as long as he remains on the earth planet to execute his mission of annihilating the demons and establishing the devotees, the demigods should also remain there to assist him. They should they should all immediately take birth in the family of the Yadu dynasty, wherein the Lord will also appear in due course of that time. The Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, Krishna, personally appeared as the son of Vasudeva. Before he appeared, all the demigods, along with their wives, appeared in different pious families in the world just to assist the Lord in executing his mission. The exact word used here is Tatra
It's
Priyartham.
Tat Priyartham.
Yes, which means the demigods should appear on the earth in order to please the Lord. In other words, any living entity who lives only to satisfy the Lord is a demigod. The demigods were further informed that the plenary portion of Lord Krishna, Ananta, who is maintaining the universal planets by extending his millions of hoods, would also appear on the earth before Krishna's appearance. They were also informed that the external potency of Vishnu, Maya, with whom all the conditioned souls are enamored, would also appear just to execute the purpose of the Supreme Lord. After instructing and pacifying all the demigods as well as Bhumi with sweet words, Lord Brahma, the father of all Prajapatis or progenitors of universal population, departed for his own abode, the highest material planet called Brahmaloka. Hare Krishna, some other devotee can read from here.
Hare Krishna. The leader of Yadu dynasty, King Surasen, was ruling over the country known as Mathura, the district of Mathura, as well as the district known as Surasen. On account of the rule of King Surasen, Mathura became the capital city of all kings of Yadus. Uh, Mathura was also made the capital of the kings of Yadu dynasty because the Yadus were very pious family and knew that Mathura was the place where Lord Sri Krishna lives eternally, just as he also lives in Dwarka. Once upon a time, Vasudev, the son of Sursen, just after marrying Devaki, was going home on his chariot with his newly wedded wife. The father of Devaki, known as Devaka, had contributed a sufficient dowry because he was very affectionate towards his daughter. He had contributed hundreds of chariots completely decorated with gold equipment. At that time, Kamsa, the son of Ugrasen, in order to please his sister Devaki, had voluntarily taken the reins of horses of Vasudev's chariot and was driving. According to the custom of the Vedic civilization, when a girl is married, the brother takes the sisters and brother-in-law to their home because the newly married girl may feel too much separation from her father's family. The brother go with her until she reaches her father-in-law's house. The full dowry the full dowry contributed by Devaka was as follows: 400 elephants fully decorated with golden garlands, 15,000 decorated horses, and 1,800 chariots. He also arranged for 200 beautiful girls to follow his daughters. The Kshatriya system of marriage, still current in India, dictates that when a Kshatriya is married, a few dozen of the bride's young girlfriends, in addition to the bride, go to the house of king. The followers of the queen are called maidservants, but actually they act as friends of the queen. This particle is prevalent from time immemorial. traceable at least to the time before the advent of Lord Krishna 5,000 years ago. So Vasudeva brought home another 200 beautiful girls along with his wife. While the bride and bridegroom were passing along on the chariot, there were different kinds of musical instruments playing to indicate the auspicious moment. There were conch shells, bugles, drums, and kettle drums combined together. They were vibrating a nice concert. The procession was passing very pleasingly, and Kamsa was driving the chariot, and when suddenly there was a miraculous sound vibrated from the sky, which especially announced to Kamsa, Kamsa, you are such a fool. You are driving the chariot of your sister and your brother-in-law, but you do not know that the eighth child of this sister will kill you. Kamsa was the son of Ugrasen of the Bhoja dynasty. It is said that Kamsa was the most demoniac of all the Bhoja dynasty kings. Immediately after hearing the prophecy from the sky, he caught hold of Devaki's hair and was just about to kill her with his sword. Vasudeva was astonished at Kamsa's behavior, and in order to pacify the cruel, shameless brother-in-law, he began to speak as follows. With great reason and evidence, he said, my dear brother-in-law Kamsa, you are the most famous king of the Bhoja dynasty, and people know that you are the greatest warrior and a valiant king. How is it that you are so infuriated that you are prepared to kill a woman who is your own sister at his auspicious time of a marriage? Why should you be so much afraid of death? Death is already born along with your birth. From the very day you took your birth, you begin to die. Suppose you are 25 years old, that means you have already died 25 years. Every moment, every second you are dying. Why then should you be so much afraid of death? Final death is inevitable. You may die either today or in 100 years. You cannot avoid death. Why should you be so much afraid? Actually, death means annihilation of the present body. As soon as the present body stops functioning and mixes with the five elements of material nature, the living entity within the body accepts another body according to his present action and reaction. It is just as when a man walks on the street, he puts forward his foot, and when he is confident that his foot is situated on sound ground, he lifts other foot. In this way, one after another, the body changes and the soul transmigrates. See how the plant forms change from one twig to another so carefully. Similarly, the living entity changes his body as soon as the higher authorities decide on his next body. As long as a living entity is conditioned within this material world, he must take material bodies one after another. His next particular body is offered by the laws of nature according to the actions and reactions of this life. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yuvraj Prabhu, you had raised your hand, so you can continue reading.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. This body is exactly like one of the bodies which we always see in dreams. During our dream of sleep, we create so many bodies according to mental creation. We have seen gold and we have also seen a mountain. So in a dream, we can see a golden mountain by combining the two ideas. Sometimes in dreams, we see that we have a body which is flying in the sky, and at the time, we completely forget our present body. Similarly, these bodies are changing. When you have one body, you forget the past body. During a dream, we may contact with so many new kinds of bodies, but when we are awake, we forget them all. And actually, these material bodies are creations of our mental activities. But at the present moment, we do not recollect our past bodies. The nature of the mind is flickering. Sometimes it accepts something and immediately it rejects the same thing. Accepting and rejecting is the process of the mind in contact with the five objects of sense gratification: form, taste, smell, sound, and touch. In its speculative way, the mind comes in touch with the objects of sense gratification. And when the living entity desires a particular type of body, he gets it. Therefore, The body is an offering by the laws of material nature. The living entity accepts a body and comes out again into the material world to enjoy or suffer according to the construction of the body. Unless we have a particular type of body, we cannot enjoy or suffer according to our mental proclivities inherited from the previous life. The particular type of body is actually offered to us according to our mental condition at the time of death. The luminous planets like the sun, a moon, or the stars reflect themselves in different types of reservoirs like water, oil, or ghee. The reflection moves according to the movement of the reservoir. The reflection of the moon is on the water, and the moving water makes the moon also appear to be moving, but actually the moon is not moving. Similarly, by mental concoction, the living entity attains different kinds of bodies, although actually he has no connection with such bodies. But on account of illusion, being enchanted by the influence of Maya, the living entity thinks that he belongs to a particular type of body. That is the way of conditioned life. Suppose a living entity is now in a human form of body. He thinks that he belongs to a human community or a particular country or a particular place. He identifies himself in that way and unnecessarily prepares for another body which is not required by him. Such desires and mental concoctions are the cause of different types of body. The covering influence of material nature is so strong that living entity is satisfied whatever body he gets and identifies with that body with great pleasure. Therefore, I beg to request you to not to be overwhelmed with dictation of your mind and body. Vasudeva thus requested Kamsa not to be envious of his newly married sister. One should not be envious of anyone, because envy is the cause of fear both in this world and in the next. When one is before Yamaraja, the lord of punishment after death, Vasudeva appealed to Kamsa on the behalf of Devaki, stating that she was his younger sister. He also appealed at an auspicious moment. At the time of marriage, a younger sister or brother are supposed to be protected as one's children. The position is overall so delicate, Vasudeva reasoned, that if you kill her, it will go against your high reputation. Vasudeva tried to pacify Kamsa by good instruction as well as philosophical discrimination, but Kamsa was not to be pacified because his association was demoniac. Because of his demoniac association, he was always a demon, although born in a very high royal family. A demon never carries any good instruction. He is just like a determined thief. One can give him moral instruction, but it will not be effective. Similarly, those who are demoniac or atheistic by nature can hardly assimilate any good instruction, however authorized it may be. That is the difference between a demigod and a demon. Those who can accept good instruction and try to live their lives in that way are called demigods, and those who are unable to take such good instruction are called demons. Failing in his attempt to pacify Kamsa, Vasudeva wondered how he would protect his wife Devaki. When there is imminent anger, an intelligent person should try to avoid the dangerous position as far as possible. But if, in spite of endeavoring by all intelligence, one fails to avoid the dangerous position, there is no fault on his part. One should try his best to execute his duties. But he if the attempt fails, he is not at fault. Vasudeva thought of his wife as follows: for the present, let me save the life of Devaki. Then later on, if there are children, I shall see how to save them. He further thought, if in the future if I get a child who can kill Kamsa just as Kamsa is thinking, then both Devaki and the child will be saved because the law of providence is inconceivable. But now, some way or the other, let me save the life of Devaki. There is no certainty how a living entity contacts a certain type of body, just as there is no certainty of how the blazing fire comes in contact with a certain type of wood in the forest. When there is a forest fire, it is experienced that the blazing fire sometimes leaps over one tree and catches another by the influence of the wind. Similarly, a living entity may be very, very careful and fearful in the matter of executing his duties, but it is still very difficult for him to know what type of body he is going to get in the next life. Maharaj Bharata was very faithfully executing the duties of self-realization. But by chance, he contacted temporary affection for a deer, and he had to accept his next life in the body of a deer. Vasudeva, after deliberating on how to save his wife, began to speak to Kamsa with great respect. Although Kamsa was the most sinful man, sometimes it happens that a most virtuous person like Vasudeva has to flatter a person like Kamsa, a most vicious person. That is the way of all diplomatic uh, transactions. Although Vasudeva was deeply aggrieved, he presented himself outwardly as tearful. He addressed the shameless Kamsa in that way because he was so atrocious. Vasudeva said to Kamsa, "My dear brother-in-law, please consider that you have no danger from your sister. You are awaiting some danger because you have heard a prophetic voice in the sky. But the danger is to come from the sons of your sister, who are not present now, and who knows, there may or may not be sons in the future. Considering all this, you are safe for the present, nor is there cause of fear from your sister. If there are any sons born of her, I promise that I shall present all of them to you for necessary action." Kamsa knew the value of Vasudeva's word of honor, and he was convinced by his argument. For the time being, he desisted from the heinous act of killing his sister. Thus, Vasudeva was pleased and praised the decision of Kamsa. In this way, he returned to his home. Any other Prabhu may continue now. Hari Krishna.
Hare Krishna, may I read?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Prabhu.
Prabhu.
Okay, Prabhu. After due course of time, Vasudeva and Devaki gave birth to 8 male children, as well as 1 daughter. When the first son was born, Vasudeva kept his word of honor and immediately brought the child before Kamsa. It is said that Vasudeva was very much elevated and famous for his word of honor, and he wanted to maintain his fame. Although it was very painful for Vasudeva to hand over the newly born child, Kamsa was very glad to receive him, but he became a little compassionate with the behavior of Vasudeva. This event is very exemplary. For a great soul like Vasudeva, there is nothing considered to be painful in the course of discharging one's duty. A learned person like Vasudeva carries out his duties without hesitation. On the other hand, a demon like Kamsa never hesitates in committing any abominable action. It is said, therefore, that a saintly person can tolerate all kinds of miserable conditions of life. A learned person can discharge his duties without awaiting favorable circumstances. A heinous person like Kamsa can act in any sinful way, and a devotee can sacrifice everything to satisfy the Supreme Personality of God. So, dear Prabhus, we will stop right here and we will continue tomorrow reading from this point. Kamsa became satisfied from this point. We will continue reading tomorrow. So, thank you, dear Prabhus, for joining today's session. Please do make sure to join tomorrow also. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.